Hello there, and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom TV review roundup where we talk about things such as The Walking Dead and Star Trek, etc. We have a bumper episode this week, not in terms of the amount of shows, but in terms of the things that happened. Very exciting week in pretty much all of the programmes, so we're looking forward to getting dug in to talk about all of those. If you're new here, then welcome along. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Those of you that have been here before and returning, thank you for coming back. If you can just remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Go down below into the comments section because we'd love to engage with you, get your feedback, see what your thoughts are on these shows and just the things we talk about generally. Check out my description box for other ways in which you can help support the channel so I can do bigger and better things in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much all the housekeeping. There's not really much to say in terms of a lead-in this week, so we're going to get stuck into the content. So I would like to extend a welcome to my co-host. So hello there, Mum. Are you there?
Yeah, hello, Dom.
How you doing?
I'm here. I'm good.
Good?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
Good, that's good to hear. Happy with how things went last week?
Yes, very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love listening to it back. It's brilliant.
It's funny, isn't it? It's funny as well.
You almost forget it's yourself on the other end of the podcast. You go, oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I said that.
I also find it's that thing where you listen back to it and you go, oh yeah, I forgot that we talked about that, or I forgot that came up in conversation or whatever. It's like, while we're doing it at the time, we're just going through it, we're doing it and recording it and stuff. But when I listen back to it, I'm like, it's almost like I'm listening to it and it wasn't me, even though it was you and me that recorded it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
But yes.
Highlight of my week.
We're going to start off talking about this week's episode of Star Trek, followed by The Walking Dead, then Supergirl, then Arrow, and then finishing off with the Orville. Obviously, I will put timestamps in the description, so if any of you want to jump to those specific points, do so, but we'd love you to listen to the whole thing from start to finish. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yes. There's so much to talk about this week, so it's so exciting. Yeah, so exciting, so it'd be good.
Yeah. So we'll get underway. So Star Trek Discovery. This week's episode was called The Red Angel. What are your thoughts?
Wow. Right, well, so we started off, obviously last week, the robot Arium got thrown out into space, but they retrieved her body and deleted her data, and then did the memoriam was so sweet.
I know. Well, I mean,
really like that.
It reminded me, it was very much of in the second Star Trek movie when Spock dies and they have a funeral for him. It very much reminded me of that, the way that it was all set up with the coffin in the middle and they launched it out into space and stuff. It was very much like that, that second Star Trek film. It was almost like so you sort of look at it now where Discovery falls in the timeline. It's like, oh, maybe that was where they got the idea from, So when it was when it got to that point where Spock died, do you remember that time that there was that funeral for that robot girl? Yeah, let's do the same thing for Spock.
Well, no, I mean they treated her like she was the same as anyone else, because obviously that's what they probably have to do over that, bury them in space, don't they? So they treated her with the same respect as if they would have done any of their others. It's
like burying at sea in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they're on a ship.
And I bet the other one didn't have Saru singing.
No. And that was actually him, apparently, in real life. That was actually Doug Jones, the actor.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
Was doing the singing, which was pretty cool.
I loved it. I watched it again, just that bit, singing and singing. It's like, oh, this is so nice. It's me. Anyway, so we have that. They let Tyler out of the prison because obviously it wasn't him. And then we moved on to the nitty-gritty of the storyline. So they now decided, they think that, now I want you to help me with this bit, sort of like bulk it out a bit. So they think the AI hasn't attached itself to anyone else. So there's quite a bit of a prolonged conversation there. So can you bulk out that bit before Tilly arrived?
Yeah, it was when they basically, I think that was through the results of them purging Arium's computer brain before they sent her off to, off into space. They did a scan through and everything, and they got the code out of her system, And I think when they ran diagnostics to ensure that none of the other ship systems had been infiltrated or infected, and they didn't find any traces of it anywhere. That, I think, was in a nutshell basically what it was. And then
Tilly interrupted them.
Yeah, Tilly interrupted to say that...
Was that the bit where Tilly interrupted them? Yeah, she'd found the data for Project Daedalus, and it had a bio-neuro signature of the Red Angel in it.
Yeah.
And it matched Burnham.
Yeah, so that was the mic drop moment. It was we found this bio-neural scan, and it was obviously of whoever's inside the Red Angel suit, and then it was like, it matches yours, Michael. And it's like, what? So
now they have to work out what it all means. It's like, what does this mean that it's got her bio-neuro signature on it? So at that particular time, Section 31's ship arrived.
Yeah.
And they had come to say they wanted to capture the Red Angel and make it work for them.
Yeah.
They explained that they knew that something to do with the Klingons were working with time travel or something at some point, and they created and the Section 31 had created the Red Angel.
Well, yeah, basically he gave a bit of background, and he said they've been aware of stuff to do with time travel technology for a while, and I think they said like 20 years ago we discovered the Klingons were working on projects to do with time travel, which would have allowed them to effectively, that if it had worked, they could have used it as a weapon, because they could have gone back in time and wiped out the human race, which would have had a big effect on the Federation ever becoming a thing. They managed, and what's his name was there, wasn't he? Tyler was there, and he was kind of like, yeah, they would have done. Yeah, he was really matter of fact. He was really like, yeah, that would have happened.
Yeah. Did you say so like, no disrespect?
Yeah.
No disrespect or something to him.
So they revealed then that they'd obviously become aware of this. They then got their hands on some of this data and research. So they started working on stuff themselves. And they started working on time travel and how it could work. And they basically built the suit. The Red Angel suit was built by Section 31.
So they created the Red Angel.
And they revealed that Burnham's parents were part of the project.
No, not yet. They told them about that, so they said they're going to make a trap, and once they got the angel in the trap, they're going to close the wormhole once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
And Burnham looked at him and thought there's more to this story than meets the eye. And Giorgio suggested to her after that little meeting, saying Leyland has the answers. Like, she didn't actually say it was Leyland, but she goes, you need to look for somebody else for the answers, because she says it doesn't sound right. So that is when she then later on she went to see him, but that wasn't the time she went to see him. After that particular moment, Stamart, Lily and Giorgio were working on the trap.
Mm-hmm.
And Giorgio was comparing Stamart to his future self.
Not his future self, his alternate reality self.
Reality or whatever it was.
She kept looking at him while he was talking, and she was like talking about his confidence and how similar or dissimilar he is from the version of him that she knew. And it was all really awkward, because she was then it was like she was flirting with him, and he was like, I'm gay, right? And she's like, yes, if you say you are gay, pansexual, it doesn't really matter.
He said he was pansexual on her time.
Yeah, and she's like, these are any labels. And then obviously that was the point where Hugh came in as well, wasn't it? And she called him Papi, and he was like, did you just call me Papi? And she was like, yes. And he's like, okay, this is really weird. And she was like flirting with both of them. And I was like, this is really... And then I love how when she left, Tilly was just stood there, and then she was just like, okay, what just happened? It's like, that's what we were thinking.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a light-hearted moment. Yeah. There was a small moment then also where we saw Nan, the woman who had ejected Aram, apologising to Burnham. But Burnham said, because they didn't even know each other, so we didn't know each other, but we feel like we know each other now.
Yeah.
And she said she did the right thing and shook her hand, and that sort of like, she didn't want to think there was any hard feelings, because she thought, I did what you didn't want to do. Are you angry with me, sort of thing, for doing it? But Burnham obviously knew it was the right thing to do, but couldn't bring herself to do it.
Well, she felt...
So that was quite nice.
She felt guilty as well, didn't she? Because after the memorial service, all the things that had been said about Ariam, and she's like, this was not just their colleague, this was their friend. So these things are obviously been, especially with like, obviously when they did all of their little bits, when they gave all their little eulogies, and obviously Tilly ended it with just a simple, she was my friend. I think that's been playing on Nan's mind of like, this, I did this was my doing, but Michael was like, it couldn't be helped. There was nothing, you made the hard choice that had to be made, sort of thing.
I mean, it was good they had that. Obviously, you needed something to sort of, they could have just like brushed the whole episode without even questioning the fact that she'd done what Burnham didn't want to do. So it was good that they, even though it was only a brief moment, it was good that they had that bit, I think.
Yeah.
Moving forward, like within the series and that, for their relationship properly to grow a bit more.
Yeah.
We then went to Leyland and Saru working together. Saru had decided to assess Leyland himself. So he had basically volunteered because he didn't trust him. He did tell him that, didn't he?
This was all connected to, because we kind of skimmed over a little bit, the fact that when they came up with the plan to capture the Red Angel, they said, look, we have to work together on this. We can't do this independently. Section 31, because it was the Admiral said, didn't she? She was like, we all have to work on this together. There has to be mutual trust. We have to share resources. If we're going to do this, then we have to do it as a team rather than individual entities. So they were, they came up with the idea that the Discovery were going to come up with the method to trap the Red Angel, and the Section 31 ship was going to use its tractor beams and things like that
technology
in order to do stuff to the wormhole, because they said about the anchor point. They worked out when they were diagnosing everything, when the Red Angel comes through the wormhole, the thing that allows it to sort of travel through and then snap back again, there must be some form of anchor point on the other side of the wormhole in its timeline. So they were like, if we can close the wormhole and sever the anchor point, we will effectively trap the Red Angel here in our time, which will then mean that she or it can't, zap out of here, and we can capture it. So that's what they were going to do. And they also said it's an insurance policy to ensure no more probes or future technology comes through the wormhole after it. Because that was the other thing. Didn't they discover a pattern to say that every time...
Any more AIs or anything come through,
Yeah, because they discovered a pattern...
It follows it through, doesn't it?
They discovered that pattern that, like, every one of these bursts, there was a signature to do with the future AI as well. So they were like, we need to isolate that variable to prevent it from infecting anything else. So when Leyland was going to return to his ship, they said about sending over somebody from the Discovery, and Saru volunteered, and he was like, I'll go. And then when we got to that scene, when he was there sat at the desk and stuff, he basically was blunt with him, and he was just like, I don't trust you. I was here to assess you, to see if you're trustworthy and to see if you were going to double cross us. And he was very brave, and he was up in his face, and he said something about his threat ganglion, didn't he? And he sort of said, I wonder whether...
Yeah, he said, even without my ganglia,
the sense
that you are telling the truth and you are on our side, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it was like also his bravery that like maybe he wouldn't have confronted him that way, but without them, he feels brave enough to do it.
Wouldn't have had the courage, would he?
Yeah.
So that was the point that Burnham came to see Leyland and told Saru to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And she got him to tell her the truth about her parents.
Yeah, because that was when obviously Giorgio had said, go and speak to him, so she went over there, and she got Saru to leave the room, and she said to tell her, tell me everything. There's stuff here going on that you haven't told me about, so what is it you're not telling me? And then he went on to explain about the fact that her parents had been part of the Section 31, that they had been involved in helping to build the suit, and then he went on to explain that he was effectively responsible for their deaths. And she said, no, the reason we were on this planet...
All they needed.
Yeah, because she said about this planet that they'd been on, and she's always like blamed herself for it and said it was because she wanted to watch a star go supernova.
Supernova?
Yeah, but then he said, no, the real reason they were there is because I put them there. The Klingons discovered the fact that we had taken their stuff and that we'd made progress with it. They wanted that information back. They wanted they wanted to get their hands on our research and everything. And he basically used her parents as bait. Because he was careless with information, they got wind of the fact that her parents were like the the scientists, I suppose, that were working on this, so they knew where they were, which was why they were able to find them and like kill them.
Yeah.
So then
even though he didn't physically kill them, he sent them to their death, hadn't he?
Yeah, and he sort of said he's lived with that all these years and he was really guilty, and then she just looked at him and she just smacked him in the face.
She said, that's for my mother, and she punched him again, that's for my father.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, go burn them. That was so funny. But then we went to the Admiral was in her office, and the doctor, I don't know what his name is, the one that's come back from the dead.
Hugh.
He'd gone in to see her, and he said something about, I used to be a psychologist or something.
Yeah, that's right.
He was chatting to her about how he feels about who he is, and that was a nice moment, that was, when she was like giving him some advice on him and Stammart, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was like it was almost like he had like an evaluation, and she just basically talked to him about her, his experiences and how he needs to reassess things for himself, not consider what's happened. It's almost like, you've been through an unprecedented thing, you've come back to life effectively, so it's going to take a while for you to get used to that, but you have to remember, and I think she said something nice about Stamets, didn't she, about how much he tried, how much work he put into bringing him back, and
yes.
sort of not to isolate himself from him and stuff, and it gave him pause for thought of like, how much Paul really cares for him, and about what sort of sacrifices he made and how it's affected him having that scenario where the person he loved, died, but then he got the chance to resurrect him, and how he's been obviously feeling since Hugh's returned and how Hugh's been reacting to him and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like a little character moment, really. I mean...
Yeah, it was nice, though,
it may play into the story a bit more going further forward, but that was just like an aside to all of the other exciting stuff that was happening in the episode.
So we then flipped to Burnham punching a punch bag. She was well angry because of what had happened with Leyland, and Spock came in and was very sarcastic. He was very sarcastic and blunt, all I can say.
He was.
And also he threw in, I wish I'd been there when she'd hit him.
Yeah, and it was weird, wasn't it? Because it was basically them making up with each other, but in a really unconventional way.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a touchy-feely, sort of happy family reunion moment. It was like all sarcastic comments and, little sort of backwards and forwards bits. But it was effectively that whole scene played out of, like you said, he wished he was there. He understood how she was feeling, and that she is his sister, and that he does care about her and stuff like that. Because
they made some sort of kind of peace, really, didn't they? And he said, I accept your apology.
Yeah, because did that not also play into the bigger thing of this story about the other part of this trap?
Well, yeah, because they started talking about it, and they realised that the angel only appeared when Burnham was in danger.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to the team and said, like, we've always had we've had the red burst for other things, but when I was in danger, the red angel disappeared.
Yeah.
So I have to be the bait.
Yeah, she said
it's like, whoa, that's a big deal.
I have to be in a perilous situation in order to draw the angel out. And so then they were looking for things to do it, and they were on about this planet, I think Esoph or something like that.
Yeah.
And they said that because they needed energy to power the device, because they said because it was to do with quantum mechanics and this, that, and the other, they said we need something to boost it. The energy, the power from the two ships is not going to be sufficient, so we need something that's going to boost the power for the trap. And so they said about this planet, and they also said the other thing about this planet is because of the high levels of, I can't remember what it was a Star Trek element. It was like, I don't think it was a real life thing that we have in the periodic table. It was a space thing. But it was because of the high levels of this particular substance, it was also a very dangerous planet. There were like Starfleet outposts there, because obviously they mined this substance or whatever. So they said, if we can go to this facility and then we can basically expose you to the natural habitat, or not the habitat, sorry, the natural environment of this planet.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, the atmosphere,
Stuff,
that's right. Yeah, the atmosphere, that's the word I was looking for. Then that, that could be enough to put you in peril. So they went to this planet and they got everything set up. So by this point, so we'd had all these bits of dialogue, all these bits of planning set up. They traveled to the planet, they built the device, they set it all up, and then they said, right, we're going to have, the several teams. So we'll have the Tyler went back over to the Section 31 ship, so he was going to work with Leyland over there. They had our team on the Discovery, and then they had the away team that were going down to the planet. So that was going to include Stamets, that was going to include Spock, obviously Burnham, and the Doctor, because they said, we need the Doctor to be there because we need to be able to administer aid to her in case anything goes wrong.
Resuscitate her if it goes wrong, yeah.
And Burnham was adamant. She was like...
But Spock pointed out that they couldn't intervene too early because the angel won't appear. So basically, don't be too quick to rush in and go, oh, no, we need to save her. He said, because then the peril won't be there, the angel might not come.
Yeah, this is a thing. He said,
and Burnham was like, yes, that's what we've got to do.
The jeopardy has to be real. It can't be artificial. If we're on hand too quickly to pull the plug on this thing, then it may not be a dire enough situation for the angel to turn up and this whole thing will be pointless. So they were like, okay, well, and Burnham was confident. She was like, this is going to happen. If it's me from the future, then I would have self-preservation. I would want to save myself. So I'm confident this is going to happen, because they were clearly working on this understanding, and Burnham had even accepted it to the point where, well, it's me. I'm the time traveler. I'm the one that's coming backwards and forwards. So obviously I would have a vested interest in making sure that I don't die in the past, because if I die in the past...
Exactly, so she was confident. Yeah. There was a moment where she was walking towards into the room with Spot. They said, right, let's go, time to go now. And she had a little moment with Tyler, rang her, and she said he loves her or something. She goes, yes, I know, Ash. So I was like, she looked so scared, bless her.
Well, yeah, because they had they had their kissy moment as well, didn't they?
Yeah, that's before, yeah.
Yeah, they had that moment where they were together, and basically she said how scared she was. I mean, she said as much as she was being confident to everybody, and this was the only way, she was terrified because she was effectively going to her death. And so then they hugged and kissed, and it was like, okay, they still love each other.
But it was the electric chair, the thing she had to go in. It was brutal looking.
And
even as she was walking towards it, she was saying, what if it doesn't work? And Spot was saying, it would be ideal if it works, so I don't get charged with another death.
I know.
But such a way with words. I thought even to the last minute he's been sarcastic.
I know, he couldn't be really sympathetic, could he?
No. And then he strapped her all in.
Yeah.
And left her in there, and then the roof came off, and I thought, here we go. And I went, oh, it's so horrible to watch her in such agony, because she was in so much pain, wasn't she?
Yeah, because just for context of people just listening to this, in case you haven't seen it, so it was basically a big industrial warehouse room. They had this circular device set up on the floor that had lots of parts. If you just imagine like a flower, I suppose, opened out with the petals. So it had all these bits attached to it coming off it. Then there was a section coming off in front of it with a chair. Burnham was then strapped into this chair, and it was like an electric chair. She had binds to go round her arms, she had a thing to go round her head and around her legs, and it strapped her securely in place so she couldn't escape herself. Then the actual room she was in had vents, and they had artificial atmosphere. So what they did was they turned off the artificial atmosphere, they opened the vents, which then allowed the atmosphere from the planet's surface to seep through into the building, and that's how she was getting poisoned, irradiated, whatever it was doing to her, and they just had to sit and watch, and it was so uncomfortable to watch that whole sequence.
Yeah.
It was really horrible, wasn't it?
She was in so much agony. They would go, no, nothing's happening, we've got to go and get her, and he's going, no, no one's going in. He wouldn't let anyone out into the building, would he, to save her? Spock was adamant. He's going, no, and they go, no, but she's dying, and then she was dead.
Yeah, because that's right. Yeah, because Spock blocked the door because he was like, obviously his conversation with her was like, we have to push this to the limit. And they were all getting angry with Spock because they were like, this is, it's going against Starfleet protocols and all of this lot. I mean, what I didn't understand as well, was why they all had to sit and watch it on the ship. Like, why were they sat watching it?
Yeah.
That was really, like, uncomfortable. It's like, oh, yeah, let's put it all up on the screen and we'll all sit and watch it.
Well, it's like an electric chair, isn't it? Somebody witnessing somebody's death like an electric chair.
Oh, yeah, I know, but they could have just monitored her bioscans or something. They didn't need to actually be watching it live.
Yeah.
That was all quite horrible.
And then he got really angry, didn't he, Pike? He says, right, that's it, we're going to get her. And then it goes, we can't. And then there was all these signals, and it was because the angel was coming, so they couldn't actually even do anything then.
That's right, yes. The angel showed up just at the last minute when effectively Burnham died. And the angel showed up and they instigated everything. The angel came in and they said, we can't do anything yet. Don't touch anything. We have to let the angel basically bring her back to life first. So the angel comes in, shoots some kind of beam out of it into Burnham's chest, which like revived her. And then they sprang the trap, didn't they?
And then the bit where the people were doing the wormhole, somebody hit Leyland. Do you think that was Tyler?
No, that weird bit with Leyland was that he went off because they were trying to shut the wormhole and they needed more power. So he went to a different section of the ship and he was looking through. It was like a viewfinder, but he was like doing command code authorizations. And then something came out of the viewfinder and went through his eye. It like went through his head.
Yeah, something happened to it.
And then he fell to the floor. And it was like, oh my God. So has the ship been infected again? Did they manage to not get it closed in time before the AI could get through again?
Yeah, because after that happened, then Tyler managed to close it, didn't he? But it's, like you say, something got onto the ship.
Yeah.
Before they did the wormhole close.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Burnham is back and alive, so I was like, yay! And then the Red Angels came out, suit like stayed there, didn't it? And the person was on the floor.
Yeah, because there was all these beams, wasn't there? There was all these beams of light came out of the like flower petal things, and they trapped it, and then it slowly pulled it to the ground, and then as the suit came down, the wings like folded back in, and it was just a spacesuit, and then the spacesuit opened out. And that stood there, and then the person in the spacesuit fell forward, and they were all stood there with bated breath of like, what's going on? What's going on? And then Burnham, obviously, it cut to her, and she was looking at the person, and then the person looked up, and it wasn't Burnham, was it?
No, it was her mother.
Yeah.
Like, what?
That was like...
That was a shocker.
I could not get over that, the way she just went, Mom?
I mean,
like,
it made
really
sense
questioning.
it was somebody connected to her. She said it had her biometric, what signature, but obviously her mother would have it as well.
Yeah.
And obviously her mother would try and save her daughter. So the fact that her mum was like, cool, because it's her mum, but it was a shock, because obviously we weren't expecting that, were we?
No. Now, the question is, how is it her mum? Like, because according to Leyland and according to Burnham's own memories and things, her parents died.
She's dead.
So there's a couple of options here. Option one is that her mum, if they were the ones using the suit, her mum managed to get out of there, like her mum managed to escape in the time-traveling suit and didn't actually die. Or it's her mum from an earlier period in the timeline, so maybe it's from when her mum was actively working for Section 31, and maybe when they were testing the suit, maybe that's how she's able to time travel. You know, there's a couple of options here.
Yeah.
Of, like, she's either from earlier on in the timeline and has travelled into the future and back again, or she's from that timeline. She didn't die, she escaped, and she was like, you know, maybe it will come across quite callously, because she was like, but I thought you died. And she was like, yeah, you had to think I died because we had to protect this technology from the Klingons type thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's going to be something here, but that was just going through my head. I was questioning of like, how is this possible? How is she here?
That's what I was shocked for.
It was
so
really
we got that,
like,
and obviously the old with Leyland, and so we've got two interesting things going forward to this week's episode that's just shown.
Yeah.
Which I was tempted to watch again. I was like, no, can't watch it. Before the podcast again. Well, that'll be my evening viewing tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I want to find out what happened. But yeah, the whole episode was so tense and, well, I mean, there was the build up to it, but all that bit, which seemed to go on forever, of her like being in that place and watching everyone wanting to save her and Spock adamant that they couldn't, and afterwards, like, phew,
yeah,
need a lay down. It was so exciting.
Did you reckon?
That's why when I watched it before you. That's why I was going, have you got to watch it? It's so exciting.
Did you recognise the mum at all as well?
Yeah, well, I didn't really pay much notice of her.
She's been in quite a few things.
Out of one of her other programs?
Well, she was in a couple of episodes of Luke Cage. She was police captain, Captain Audrey, I think her name was, in Luke Cage. So she was in several episodes of that. So that's what we would have seen her in. She was also in, you never watched it, but a program I watched years ago, crime thing called The Wire. She was in that for like pretty much the whole show. So a lot of people may know her from that show. So and the thing is, she's seen as quite not like high profile as in like really famous, but she's like a respected actress. So it'll be interesting to see how long she sticks around. Like the croaky
voice woman who's been in a few things, but no one really knows who she is.
Exactly. Yes, exactly that. So
shout out to Expanser.
Yeah.
Thanks soon to your podcast.
One thing I will say, I was happy with the twist. I was very happy with the twist for one simple reason. Okay? The reason that I was happy with this twist is one of the biggest criticisms of Star Trek Discovery is how they built the whole show around Michael Burnham and how it's like she is a female hero and basically she's like Flash Gordon. She's the savior of the universe. Everything that happens is tied to Michael Burnham, and Michael Burnham has made everything possible, you know. Whereas like in other Star Trek shows, yes, you've had the captain, but it's always been about the team. It's been about the ship as a whole. It's been about the Federation as a whole. It hasn't really been about one person is the person that saves the galaxy, whereas Star Trek Discovery has made it more about Michael is the star of the show.
Yeah.
So by having her be the Red Angel, again, it's like, oh, okay, so she's, you know, she again is like the Jesus Christ figure of the Star Trek Discovery storyline because she is the savior of everything. You know, she travels back in time and saves the universe and all of this lot. So I'm glad they went with that twist because then it means those people that would jump on that bandwagon and say all of those kind of things, they can't say that because it wasn't her. So I was glad that they did that because it was like that was almost like them being aware of the negative stuff that's being said about this show, and they're like, so you thought it was Burnham, did you, playing into all of your Messiah complex things? But no, it wasn't. So yeah, I was happy about that.
Like, booyah, you haters.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so exciting episodes this week then.
Yes, definitely. So look forward to the next one, which, like you said, is up like to watch on Netflix now. So that'll be good to see. And we're moving towards the end of this as well. I don't think we've got that many episodes left.
Yeah, I would have thought so. They're based on the story.
14 episodes.
I don't think altogether.
Yeah, 14 episodes, and that was episode 11. No, it wasn't. That was episode 10.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 episodes left.
Yes. Oh. So moving on.
So back down to Earth now with our check-in on the penultimate episode of The Walking Dead, which was called The Calm Before. And wow, what an episode this was.
Another exhausting episode.
Unbelievable episode, yeah.
Yeah. So we started the episode with some people at the hilltop getting ready to go to the fair, people we hadn't actually ever seen before. They were going to sell these little discs that was H on for the, H for Hilltop.
Yeah, they're little
wood, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they showed them setting off, and a few minutes later, you found they hadn't ever got to the fair because they looked like they'd been attacked. And the next thing you know, the woman is being scalped. It's like, ooh, not nice.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Oh, that's not good. And then we flashed to the kingdom. And everyone was, and the king was standing on the balcony with a big tiger statue. I thought it was absolutely awesome. I want one. Thought that was such a good homage to the tiger.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody and saying make sure we all drink and be merry and enjoy themselves. So that was really good.
He did a big welcome, and he did a speech, and he talked about Rick Grimes and the things that Rick Grimes tried to achieve, and about bringing together a community and starting again. And he said, I think Rick Grimes would be proud of us now. Look at us all here. And he was so happy to see everyone. And they were doing shots of the crowd, and you could see lots of randoms, but like our familiar characters peppered around throughout this big crowd of people. And he was talking about this being a new beginning, a symbol of hope, and a thing to bring them all together and reunite the communities after a little while. And that he wanted everybody to enjoy things. And then Jerry came forward, didn't he? And then Jerry was like,
that's right.
Do I do it now? And then he went, what did he say? It was an anagram of fair, wasn't it?
Yes, and he said, so he told him, no, you don't need to just say fair.
Yeah, he's like, we decided
like
not to do that. We decided we weren't doing that, Jerry. And he's like, oh, okay, sorry.
And we had Carol fretting because obviously they hadn't arrived, had they, Henry and that?
Yeah.
So she's like worried that they weren't going to get there, and they got anything happened to them. And then just as she's worrying, the gates opened and they came in into the kingdom. It's like, yay! And Lydia was in awe of Henry's parents' love for him because obviously they're both cuddling him, and she's looking, thinking, I didn't get that kind of life.
Yeah.
I think, looking at him, thinking, oh. And then when Judith was there, and they go, oh, look at her, she's so lit, she's so big. And obviously they hadn't seen her for years. Obviously, how many years? It was supposed to be 6 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's like, oh.
What was really sweet?
That was all this shot.
The thing that was really sweet in that moment too was when Carol said to her about, do you remember me? And Judith said, I've been drawing pictures of you every day. And it was like, oh, it's like, even though you haven't seen each other for such a long time, she never forgot about you. And Carol was really touched by that.
Lovely.
It was like, oh, bless. It was like this. It was almost like a family reunion, wasn't it? It was really nice.
Yeah, all big hugs, and then they decided they were going to have a chat. All the big Michonne and all that. So they all went into this room, and they were having a catch up, and they decided that they were going to give Alexandra was going to give Lydia asylum. Yeah. From the skin job numbers.
The skin job
numbers.
Yeah.
And they decided that to seal the deal, that they needed to do something to seal the deal. And
you knew what was coming, didn't you?
I have just the thing. And he brought the big treaty out. And then Michonne looked at Tara, and Tara, yeah, I might have took a bit of stuff.
Yeah, she's like, how did you get this? Did you not know when they said that they had to find a way to seal the deal? Straight away, my head just went straight to the treaty. It's going to be the treaty.
I'm surprised afterwards he didn't say, and I have a glass case to put it in, but he didn't actually get to say that.
And so they had the little
cooler if he'd done that.
They had the little American history, the nod to kind of American history in the signing the Declaration of Independence, because when Ezekiel signed it, what did he say? Something like, eat your heart out, John Hancock, or something like that. And it's like, that's a nice little nod there, because it's like they're the forefathers of a new nation. It's a new beginning, just in the same way that the forefathers in the America, when they signed the Declaration and stuff, it was like, it was to signify the beginnings of a new world, a new beginning, and it's like, this is what they were doing in The Walking Dead. And also important to say, the people that were there, obviously this little meeting was the heads of the different communities. So you had
each of the communities, yeah.
You had Tara, you had Michonne and Father Gabriel, you had the King and Carol, and then this random girl from the ocean side.
Yeah.
Because I was
We've
just
never really seen.
Who are you? Afterwards, I heard something about the actress that has been the main character in the past with Oceanside. is off filming something else at the moment. So they were like, well, we need somebody else there to represent this community. So that's why we had this random woman. So that was a real world explanation as to why we had an unfamiliar face, because they needed someone to represent that community. It just happened to be someone we didn't really know.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they did the whole thing where, yeah, was it you said about Carol? Carol signed the Queen, didn't she?
She put Queen Carol.
Yeah.
For a signature.
That's right.
And then Michonne got Gabriel to sign for her because she said he was head of the council, so it was only right that he actually signed it instead of her.
I thought that was nice.
Was really nice.
Yeah.
And they decided at that meeting there and then, they decided they had to, once they'd obviously all found out about what happened, about the skin jobs, that they had to go and sort it out. So a group of them were going to go out one day, and then when they came back, the others were going to go out. That's what the plan was. So that's how that ended, that scene.
So, interjection, there is another bit about that scene. It's not over, because they not only agreed to this little thing where they were linking up and stuff, what they also said, it was not just about Lydia being given asylum and stuff, it was also about them having a contingency to do with the Whisperers. They were saying about how each community would look out for each other, and if anything ever happened, the other communities would come to their aid, and so then that way it would give a united front, which the idea was that if one community is attacked, all the others rally around, and hopefully that will signify to the Whisperers, oh, we should leave well alone because there's so many of them all unified under one banner. So that was also the importance of them signing this treaty, because it was we are all looking out for each other, and we have strength in numbers. You know, we're stronger together than we are apart, and that was important because that plays into a speech from later on in the episode. So that you need to put that bit in there too.
But the reason that what they're doing now, what they're going to be doing now, is what they used to do. That's what they used to do, didn't they?
Yeah.
When they had all the different communities, but if anything happened, they all liaised together and they all, fought for the other side. But they haven't been doing that for so long. This was like their new start to say this is what we should be doing again, because we haven't done it for so long, and every group is vulnerable without the others. So basically, that's like you say, that's what the main purpose of the treaty was, to say, yes, we agree to do the right thing by each community.
Yeah.
Yes? Am I right in that?
Yep.
Okay. Then we panned down to the fair, and it was nice to see normality, laughter, music, Eugene getting dunked. That was funny by Judith. There was a little side moment with Connie and Kelly, because she was on about having a go at her about she had to save that baby and all that, but it sounded like she had lost a baby at some point. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah, because didn't she say something like, I couldn't go through that again, not with what happened before, and things like that?
Yeah. So it made sort of like, oh, so maybe something happened to her baby.
There's a story there, isn't there?
So that was like,
There's definitely a story there about something, but yeah, definitely I think she lost a child, or, something happened with the child. And she didn't.
I don't know about you, but did you notice Michonne's son wasn't there?
Yeah, because she didn't bring him, did she? Because when she came, obviously, because we saw that, obviously, the week before, when she turned up with Judith, it was just her and Judith. Yeah,
I was thinking, why didn't she take a baby? Leave a baby, like, everything's going on in the world, and she's like, leave the baby there. But, okay. And she knows about the skins, so I thought she would have thought about it. But anyway, then we had the bit with those horrible, the boys that Henry had befriended that got him into trouble that time.
Yeah.
Trying to cause trouble for him and Lydia. And Addie likes it. Oh, we know her name now. It's Addie.
Addie, yeah. Because she came...
They just find that out this week.
She came looking for him, didn't she? She came looking for Henry, and they had a side bit, because he'd gone to get some food or something. Because you had the bit where you mentioned about Eugene, that whole scene played out because it was him and Lydia walking around the fair, and they were going past lots of our familiar characters, and she was taking all this in and going, this is amazing. What are you going to do with all this stuff? What are they going to... And he was like, I don't know, it's just stuff, and people are getting things, and it's trying to live, try and be normal again in this world that we live in. And she was just in wonderment at all of this going on. When they went and found somewhere to sit, and he went and got them something to eat or something like that, and then Addie showed up and said, can I talk to you a minute? And they had this conversation, and Lydia was sat looking.
She was apologising for dumping him in, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was saying, I'm really sorry that I told them, you've gone and everything. And while she was doing that, those boys came and sat with Lydia and was going, you do know that he likes her and she's liked him and all this stuff, which made Lydia feel really uncomfortable. So she then just sort of went off and sat on her own, didn't she?
I will be honest, that particular bit didn't sit right with me. I found it a little bit annoying because I thought, this whole, it's like high school, sort of like, oh, he likes her really, and all this kind of thing. And it's like, this guy just went out into the wilderness and risked his life to save you, so you really shouldn't be sort of getting jealous and taking on board the word of two guys that you don't know.
Yeah, but I think basically her thought is like, he's back with his people again now. It's different when we were nowhere near them. Is that true? Like, now he's with his friends again. Is that the way you like each other, will that change? She's vulnerable. She hasn't encountered any of this stuff before, has she?
Yeah, but why would he go?
So in a way, I can see what you're saying, but then you could.
Why would he go to all that effort and risk everything and risk dying and risk his friends and stuff to save her if there wasn't more to it? Do you know what I mean? I just found it a bit of a stretch of the imagination. It's like, it's different. If it was a very simple scenario, then you could go, yeah, okay, yeah, like you said, he's back with his people now and stuff. It's like, he put his life on the line for her. That's a big thing.
I think the reason that, if you think about it later on in this episode, that was just brought into play to bring those characters into play.
Yeah,
so,
it was.
Really,
it was
probably that's the only reason that was thrown in.
Integrating them back into the story, I suppose, yeah. But it was just more her reaction, the fact that she went off in a huff, that was all.
Yeah, so it cut to the bit where Daryl and Carol and the other guys were leaving the kingdom, and there was an emotional bit with Carol and the king and Henry. And Daryl asked Connie to look after the dog. He'll decide to leave dog with Connie.
Yeah.
So they all set off, and along the way they met up with a highwaymen, who'd found the remains of a cart and body. Well, not. I didn't see any other bodies, but I didn't see any bodies. Actually,
there weren't any bodies, because that's what, when they, obviously the next bit, there was a trail of blood and stuff, wasn't there?
Yeah. But it was obviously the people we'd seen right at the beginning that were off to the fair with those coins. And the highwaymen said that they'd keep an eye on the roads for them, as long as they get extra movies thrown in for that.
Yeah.
Which was funny. So what they decided to do is they sent Magna was asked to go to Hilltop because she didn't want to leave the other one, Yumiko. Sadiq I went to Alexandria to make sure those lot were all right, and obviously the others decided to head into the woods to see if they could find the skins, to even sort of talk to them and try and make some sort of pact with them.
And
this can't keep going on.
I'm trying to remember now, the little group that splintered off to investigate. It was Daryl and Carol, Yumiko, Michonne, and who else was there? Because it wasn't just the four of them. It was those four plus.
There was only one more person. I can't think who it was.
I can't think of who it was either.
No.
But
anyway, there was definitely only about 5 of them anyway. So
yeah, because they also wanted to investigate, because they saw the blood trail and they said whoever was here, they'd been taken off somewhere. So they decided to follow the trail, and obviously Daryl being a tracker, he led the way, and they went off into the woods to try and figure out what had happened.
Yeah, obviously, because that really annoyed them. Obviously, that they needed to get to the bottom of that. So they headed off into the woods, and the next thing we know, there's zombies everywhere, all around them.
Yeah, it got dark very quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. That was the whole thing about this episode. This part of the episode was interesting because it was light when they set off. It was dark when they got to the woods.
Yeah.
This will come into play when I speak about something after this.
Okay.
That's what confused me a little bit. Anyway, so they fought the zombies off, and then the next thing, the skins came out of the woods.
The Whisperers,
with knives and stuff, and one of them had a gun. It was like he was about to shoot them, and they were all in the middle, back to back, weren't they?
Well, yeah, because they
facing outwards, because they would try.
When the zombies came, they got into a circle, and so they all had their backs to each other, and that was a really awesome moment where they were just hacking and slashing and killing all the zombies, and then they were left with a circle of bodies all around the outside of them. And then the Whisperers came out of the woods, And it was a circle, so they surrounded them. And like you said, it was weird because one of them had a gun. So clearly they must have taken that from the people they killed.
The people off the cart or whatever it was. So and then Peter appeared and said, "I've told you to no, I'm telling you to drop them," which he meant obviously Daryl's lot to drop their weapons.
Yeah.
And then so that's how it just sort of left us with that.
And Daryl looked really shocked, didn't he? Because he was like, "Wait, like, how come you're still here?" Because the last time Daryl saw him was when he went down the lift shaft.
He killed him, because he was hoping he'd killed him. Yeah.
Did he not then say to Daryl, like, this could have all been avoided if you had done what I asked. All we wanted was the girl back.
Yeah, he said all we wanted was the girl back, and that's all he left it. That's how it left it, wasn't it? Then we went back to the kingdom.
Yep.
And we were seeing everyone milling around, and then we saw this woman in the background, thinking she looks suspicious. My first thought was it's one of those skins disguised, got into the hilltop somehow. Not thinking anything of it at the time.
Yeah.
Then they showed Rosita and Eugene working together in the store, they were making comms, like walkie-talkies.
Well, yeah, because this was off the back of the other week, wasn't it? When they got the thing with the radio, and so he was working on that and trying to get it up and running, and then he had that really nerdy moment where he basically invited her. He said, "Me and some of the guys are getting together for an RPG night, if you want to come along," and she was like, "I'll pass."
Yeah, that was funny because she thanked him for the whole situation with her and Gabriel and stuff and all that sort of stuff. And then she said she was going to go for a nap or something.
Yeah.
And then next thing she sat down and goes, "I thought you were going for some R&R." And she went, "No, I'll help you." I said that was quite nice. The two of them sat there. And then we also went back outside, and Tara was talking to Gabriel and the girl from Oceanside about a training sharing scheme where everyone could get like trained up.
Yeah.
Everyone's on the same level, same skills and everything. But she seemed really fidgety. It's like, I should have been going, I shouldn't be staying here. And she was really like fidgety, wasn't she? And
she was also questioning.
She said she's supposed to go the next stage. Because I don't know, I don't want to wait. I should be going and to see if everything's all right. Because she said, I'm like in charge now and I don't want to leave it.
Yeah, and
I'm not there.
That was the point. She was like questioning her leadership abilities because it's like, as we've talked about before, she was thrust into this role because of what happened with everything, with Jesus. Maggie, with Jesus. And then it's like, am I going to be a good leader? I don't want to let these people down. I don't, and so she, like you said, she was very fidgety and thinking, I should have gone, I should have left. And they're like, look, chill, it's fine.
Yeah.
You can go in the morning sort of thing.
Yeah. And then we panned over to Luke and his music. What was that? I can't remember the guy's name again. What's his name? Begins with an A.
The guy with the beard, the one that they went looking for the other week.
The guy that got kidnapped with him.
Alex?
Arlen.
Oh, I can't remember
something
what
like
he's
that, isn't
now.
it? Yeah, it was quite funny because he was going to. He said he don't want to start with an up tempo or a low tempo. I can't remember what he was saying.
Yeah.
We don't want to start like that. And Enid was stood there.
Alden.
And Enid was stood there. He's going. He goes, I don't know how you talked me into this. And she goes, I'll remember this for years to come, this moment and all this stuff.
And she
and
said
was quite really jolly.
And she said about them being boyfriend and girlfriend, and it was all really like, tee-hee-hee, we're boyfriend and girlfriend.
I know, it's quite funny. And then we saw this woman again, and I went, oh my days, it's Alpha. I recognised, as soon as I looked, obviously, the actress plays her, and I went, oh, it is. And she'd lost the hair, she'd scalped off that woman, she put that on.
She put it on, yeah.
Probably her clothes as well.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my days. So there she was like looking. But then we saw Henry had found Lydia and they were sat near a tree and sort of like having a moment. And then there was this clanging noise and Lydia looked really jumpy because, it's those pipes. Because remember we've seen that bit before when he used to live with them there.
Yeah.
He was always down there with the king, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Sorting out the pipe work. And he said, it's the pipe work, don't worry, I'll go and sort it out. And at the time, before the fact that she was there, I was going, no, he's left her on her own. It's like, oh no. And then the king was wandering around and there she is looking at something and he said, how are you having a nice time? And I haven't seen you here before. My name's Debbie.
Yeah.
and chatting away, and then he was going, it's lovely to see everyone. He goes, yes, I've surprised me, Sean came. It's like making out to do everything. It's like, oh, so crafty.
It was like, what a psycho, though, because she was like, still, what was weird as well was that she was still talking in quite a quiet, kind of whispery voice, even though she wasn't dressed up in zombie clothes. And yeah, she, like you said, she was saying about, I can't believe Michonne came, and various other references to other things where she's clearly been paying attention. She's, you know, as she was going around the fair, she was listening to snippets of this, snippets of that. She did she not make reference to his speech he gave earlier on?
Yes, yeah.
And all of these kind of things to lull him into this sense of security that she's a nice, friendly person. And then he's like, "Oh, let me escort you."
And community that she knows everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, and he put his arm out.
Can I help you with, if you find anything you like, and she said, "Oh, can you show me the?" Was it her that asked for where the clothes were? Because she said it's going to be a really bad winter, a hard winter or something. So he took her arm, didn't he? She took his arm or whatever, and then she wandered off with him. I was thinking, oh crap.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they showed them all in the cinema. So like they all get excited, and Lydia's sitting waiting. Where's Henry and all this stuff? And we got
right,
Jerry.
Because he told her to go ahead to the film and keep me a good seat. Yeah.
So she's sitting there, and there's Jerry at the front with his missus and half a dozen children.
Yeah.
Hilarious. The popcorn going round was quite funny as well. Yeah. And it was like Looney Tunes or something, wasn't it? It was like a cartoon.
It was a cartoon, yeah.
I was thinking, oh, it's Looney Tunes, ha! And then next thing, we see Lydia looking scared, and then she sat next to her, didn't she? Alpha sat next to her.
She kept looking around for Henry, didn't she? And then somebody came and we didn't see who it was, and they sat down and they put their hand on her hand, and she looked, and then she went, and it was Alpha.
It was
and she's like, shh. She did that thing that they do as the whisperers. She put her finger to her lips and stuff, and it was like, oh crap, this is not good. And then it cut. Didn't it then cut to them outside? No. Did it then cut back to the others again? From that moment, it then cut back to Daryl and stuff before we got to see Alpha go outside with Lydia.
Yeah, see, this is where the confusion came, you see. So we got her in the movies, with them lot. And then we go back into the woods and we see Alpha appear in the crowd of the skins saying, I'm not interested in Lydia anymore. And Peter's looking like confused, like what? She said to Daryl, you come with me. And so she took Daryl with her, left the others there. Yeah. And then she walked in, and I thought she was going to push him off a cliff because they were getting nearer and nearer to this cliff. And then he looked down, and there's a pit full of walkers.
Well, it was like a valley.
People are in there too.
It was like a valley, wasn't it? And there were loads and loads of them. Biggest horde we've ever seen. And she said, my people are down. Basically, her whisperers are obviously herding them around like cattle. And she said, this is mine. And she said about the land. And she basically said, the next time you cross over into my borders, this horde will enter into yours. And she was
I'll set the horde on you.
Yeah, it was like, for the time being, this is, basically, this is your last chance at like a truce. Yeah. You leave us alone, we'll leave you alone, but know this. We have this right here. So if you bother us again, this will come into your lands and it will, it will decimate everything. They'd also been wondering, because of her blasé attitude about Lydia and not being interested anymore, it was like, has she done something to Lydia? What's happened with Lydia?
That's what we were thinking. I was thinking, oh, she's already killed her then. So then it cut back to the kingdom where she was in a barn or something, wasn't she? She was confronting her. And then having a right go and all this stuff. But we still didn't see, did she... Yeah, we weren't sure what happened there because it didn't even show us. Phil then didn't show us whether she killed her or not.
No, they had. They had a confrontation.
So I was thinking, how did she get? So that must have been. She must have done all the stuff because it was daytime. Literally left the camp, then got back into her old clothes. Yeah. In all that time, like from them getting there to there, that's why I got confused because when I saw her, I was going. When I first saw the woman that was the skin, I was thinking it can't be her because. How could it be her? Because they're out there. And it's really confused. But yeah, so we know she didn't kill Lydia. So that was that.
Because there was the other bit. Wait, hold on. So the bit with her and Lydia was Lydia basically renounced her. Lydia was like, these are good people. And she was like, she hardened herself to Lydia. And she said, you were always too weak. And I don't care. You're dead to me now. You're not one of us. You never were one of us. And it was quite weird because you could see her eyes getting watery, but she was still being stern.
Yeah.
And Lydia was like, you need to leave now because all I need to do is scream and they'll come and they'll kill you. And I don't want them to kill you because regardless of how awful and terrible a person you are, you're still my mother. And I don't want that for you. I don't want to see you get hurt. So leave now while you've got the chance and leave us alone, and that'll be the end of it. And she sort of grabbed her by the face, didn't she? And that's when she said about, like, you were never one of us, really. You were always too weak. Yep. And then she left, and then that was the end of that. And then the other bit with Daryl, was, like, she said to him, it was almost like it picked up with that conversation, and she said to him about, we're letting you go, and you'll find your friends at the field at the edge of the woods. And she said something about the border. I've marked the territory.
Look out for the border or something. You'll know the border when you see it or something.
When you see it, you'll know it. And so then she went off, and then that was the end of that. And then the bit when she showed Alpha on her own in the camp.
Yeah, she was on her own. She was upset. Beta was confused about the Lydia thing, and she just said, I need to be on my own.
Yeah.
And she was crying. And then this other skin was sort of stood by a tree, and she called him over. Mm-hmm. And then she killed him because he'd seen her cry, basically.
Yeah, that's
Even though Beta had seen her cry, Beta can see her cry, Beta can see every side of her, but none of the others can see her weak, so she had to kill him.
Don't you want to see... Aren't you now really at a point where you're like, I really want to know more about him? Who is he? Where did he come from? How did he join her? What's their relationship?
Yeah.
You know, it's very interesting. I was like, after this, I was like, I want to know more about... I want to get his... flashback, his origin story, because like you said, you know, she allows herself to be vulnerable around him.
Yeah, because the other week she did as well, didn't she?
Yeah.
So it's like he's the only one she'll do that around. Yeah, so we had that, and then we had Daryl regrouping with the gang, and then they started walking away, and then they found Sadiq.
Yes, and he was all beaten up, and by this point, this was the other weird thing, because it was daytime again now.
Yeah.
So it was now daytime again.
Yeah. Because they'd also been travelling quite a long time to get there, and obviously then by the time all the thing with the fighting, it was like getting light again. The daytime was starting again.
Yeah.
And they found him all beaten up. And
well, he then said about what had happened. They'd been attacked, that they'd left him alive, they'd made him watch and all of this stuff, and he was really shaken, and they couldn't really get a lot of sense out of him. So they freed, because he was tied up as well, wasn't he? So they freed him, and he said, look, like, basically come with me. And they all started walking, wondering what's happening, what's going on. Then we cut back to Hilltop, and people are noticing that people aren't there.
Where's the Kingdom?
Yeah, the Kingdom, sorry. And they're like,
yeah, there was these bits saying, oh yeah, she went off to do that. Have you seen so-and-so? Have you seen da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. And we start going, whoa, what?
And you had the bit, did you wonder whether, at the time, did you figure out who Gabriel was talking about, or did you think it was Rosita? Because he was like...
I did. I was confused. I wasn't sure which one it was.
Yeah, it's like, who is he looking for?
I was confused. I wasn't sure if it was Rosita or Tara. And obviously, while they were doing that, they were sort of flashing and flashback first to them walking towards a hill.
Yeah.
And they could see the sticks, and you could hear this noise. So you could see it was clearly heads. Yeah. And that was when they turned back to Kingdom, when people were going, have you seen Rodney and Addie? And then there was something about, obviously, Gabriel asking about somebody. And then, we saw the...
Yeah, this was the moment, obviously, they all stopped, and it was just this look of horror as they got closer to these things, these pikes that were on the hill, and it gradually panned across from, like, least important to most important, didn't it? It was the Highwaymen. It was only two of the Highwaymen.
All three of them were there.
No. Two of the Highwaymen, and the next guy was DJ, who was the saviour that joined the group that time.
That's right. And it was the old lady, because she'd seen the old lady at the Kingdom with a baby.
Yes, and then it was...
Yeah, so she'd seen her. She'd walked past her with a baby. So the old lady. Then it was Addie, Rodney...
And
the young girl.
It was the girl with the glasses, and Frankie.
The girl with ginger-haired girl.
Yeah, the one that we saw briefly in that episode who spoke to Henry.
Yeah.
And then it carried on going, and then, the next one was Enid, and it was like, oh my god, this is like a main character. She's been in it forever. And then it got worse, because it panned to the next one, and it was Tara.
I couldn't believe that when I saw it was Tara. I thought, oh my days.
And then it cut...
No, they couldn't. Why did they kill Tara?
And that was shocking enough, but then they cut back
and
to
then we knew
our
what it was
main
going to
character.
be when we saw Daryl trying to stop Carol from looking. It was obvious then, wasn't it?
Wasn't it funny as well? Because that was an echoing moment. That was a callback. Because do you remember all those years ago with the barn? The barn with Sophia, when Sophia came out that time, and it was Daryl that grabbed Carol to say, don't look, and held her back, and he did exactly the same this time. We saw the last head was Henry.
Oh, it was awful. So that's why Lydia, like she said to Lydia, she thought, well, I've got rid of what you wanted. She was already going to do, she was going to do, make sure he was party to whatever she was going to do, because that was what Lydia, oh, well, I've left you, I've got a fella, I've got this guy and everything. Yeah. She wasn't going to let her be happy, was she? So Henry had to go. And then obviously, that was horrible. It was so horrible. And then we panned down back to the kingdom with Sadiq saying that they told him to tell the story. And he said, but I'm going to tell a different story. And then we saw that they'd rounded them all up and they had them in a barn. And then they came in fighting, didn't they? And then they fought back. They all fought back. Save their lives, basically. The
point here was that the idea of leaving him alive as a witness was that it was meant to be a tale of fear. It was meant to be you are the witness to this massacre. Go back and tell your people to fear us. This is the thing now that will make them go back into their hidey holes and leave well enough alone. But instead, he told it as a tale of hope. And
heroic.
He was like, they went down fighting. They were a family. They were united. Everybody tried to protect everyone else. They fought till their last breath, and they went down and so the moral of the story was that, like, again, going back to that thing, like we said at the very beginning, we're stronger together. Together we can accomplish. So even though they failed on this occasion, this is not going to push us back. This is not make us go running for the hills. We are going to unify, and we are going to, it's not going to disassemble the communities again. We need to do this in their memory, and everybody was kind of rallying behind that. And it was a real sort of, it was sad, but it was also a really kind of empowering moment.
Yeah. Oh, it was so sad.
And I could not get my head around it, because I thought this is a season finale thing to happen. So if that's what happened in the penultimate episode, what the hell's going to happen in this week's episode?
Yeah. If they're going to,
The fact that this episode was called The Calm before, and it was anything but, and this week's episode is called The Storm, it's like, what is going to go down in this week's episode to end it on a cliffhanger after that? How do they top that?
I know.
I mean, it was crazy. It was like, okay, so you killed a bunch of random people that didn't really have any meaning, but it was the way, as we said, the order that they went in, and they got more and more important, to the point we got 3 major characters there at the end, and it was just like, wow, this is insane. And then we got the very last moment was obviously it must have been several days later, because they'd removed all the heads, but they kept the borderline there, and Daryl and Lydia went there. And we finally, that thing that we were querying a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
It was one of them little tokens. It was one of them wooden
little
tokens.
H's.
Yeah, and because obviously it's like H for Henry, and she laid it in front of the pike that had his head on it. And then they stood there, and then that was how it ended. And it was just like, wow.
Phew. I know.
And that's why I immediately messaged you, and I was just like, you have to, I can't wait till you see The Walking Dead, it's insane.
I was on my break, so I thought, I'm going to watch it now. I said, Kev, I can't wait for you to watch it, because obviously it was Monday, and obviously he hadn't seen it, because he sees it when it's on.
Yeah.
And I go, and I was he's in tonight, so I can talk to him.
It was just, oh my God.
I was exhausted.
So what is going to happen in this, the episode that we've got coming up this weekend? I just don't know what to think now after this.
No. Very, very scary.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so take a big breath, reset, and then we'll move on to something which again was very clever, very exciting. They did a great job here of weaving a story that seems to have gone across almost all of the seasons of Supergirl. which was really clever. And this was Supergirl. It was called The House of L. And it was basically all centered around Lex Luthor. And we picked up from where we left off with the confrontation between Supergirl and Lex in the helicopter.
Yeah, from last week. So she's seen him and she followed him.
Yeah.
And he had a flying suit.
Yeah, I mean, this too, anybody that knows from the comics and stuff knows that Lex Luthor has got this special armor that he puts on, which allows him to go toe-to-toe with Superman, because it's powered by, I think it's powered by another color kryptonite, and it makes him strong enough to actually be able to fight Superman. It was interesting that we got to see that suit in this show, because he pressed the thing and it came out and surrounded him, and he flew off, didn't he? And she flew after him. And where did they go? They went to Metropolis and they landed on top of the Daily Planet.
Yeah. She knocked him out of the sky, didn't she? And he landed on the top of the building.
Mm.
And then he did something. She goes, "You have powers now." And he said, "I have powers now." And she was like really shocked.
Yep.
And then he picked up the globe from the Daily Planet. And that moment, he was going to throw it on top of her.
Yeah. And then that's when it cut away from there, didn't
it? Then it flashbacked.
Yes.
Right back to the court case, the court case that put him away.
Oh, wasn't that good, though? That whole moment, that whole bit in the court.
We had Lena and James testifying against him.
Yep. Yeah.
I did the right thing.
I want to know what he was writing, because clearly he was scribbling down that looked like Kryptonian that he was doodling. But it's like, what was that? Why was he writing in Kryptonian? What does it mean? I wonder if that will mean anything that will come up again at some point. But I just thought that was interesting. And his plea was Superman made me do it. And like you said, they were stood up there giving evidence against him. And that was interesting as well, because it was like, oh, Jimmy was there, Lena was there. It's like all these characters, these characters that are sort of interacting now, did they come into contact with each other back then or not,
Oh, yeah, I wonder. And the judge was getting sick of him, and all the court were getting sick of it all, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. And then something started happening, because the judge was like, I've heard enough, and all of these things. So basically, for everything you've done, you're going to get all these multiple prison sentences. And then the judge started coughing and was trying to pass the sentence. And it was like for 31 consecutive sentences. For all of the and then all the jury started going as well, and then he went, make that 32. So basically he must have poisoned everyone.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh my god, he's so ruthless. Even when he's getting convicted and sent to prison, he still committed one last act of murder by killing everybody in the courtroom.
I know.
So it's like, oh my god. And then on his way out, that was when obviously he had his first interaction with Eve, because she was in the crowd, wasn't she?
He was in the crowd, and so is it Otis, that other guy?
Yes, Otis, yeah.
He was there as well. Yeah, so that was his first encounter with her.
Mm-hmm.
And then before he was getting put to the main prison, he had a fancy cell, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was obviously where he'd been staying while he's waiting to go up for trial.
Mm-hmm.
And she went up to see him, and she's a fanatic.
Yep.
And so he's the one who got her into the newspaper.
Yeah.
He suggested, go and work for Catco. Because obviously he knows, he wanted her in the thick of it, didn't he? So from then, she was his spy, wasn't she, from that minute?
And that was what I was saying at the beginning about how this episode tied back to almost like near the beginning of Supergirl, because Eve came into it working at Catco ages ago. So it's like he's been seeding his plan for all this time. So all this time we've been watching this program, behind the scenes, like a puppet master, he's been manipulating various events. And obviously that became more apparent as the episode rolled on.
Yeah. And then they put him in the main prison, but he even though he was in prison, he was spoiling the warden, spoiling the inmates.
Yeah, lobster for everyone.
Drawing a bit of art on the wall.
Yeah.
And then he gets a call from Kashnia, about the Russian Supergirl, which again we saw from the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
The one I kept saying, what did I say she was? I don't think I said she was Russian.
No,
I said something. He goes, "Oh no, she's Russian."
Yeah,
German, I said, didn't I?
Yeah, something like that.
I thought I got it right. She's Russian.
Yeah.
And he's getting a 72-hour pass to go out and cause havoc, no doubt.
That was crazy. That was like the way the warden, when he was like, Warden, I'm going to need to leave for 72 hours, but I will come back.
Yeah.
And the warden's like, what do you mean leave? And then he's like, he basically threatened him, didn't he? Because he said something about your mother and does she still live at this thing? And it's like, even though he's in prison, he's still got all this power. And so then the warden was like, fine, we'll make the arrangements, but you need to be back here. And he's like, I have no intention. I'm not escaping. I've just got to go and deal with some business.
Need to go out and do something.
And then I'll come back again.
And they put a hologram in the cell, didn't they, of him?
Yeah.
So that if anyone else saw on the cameras that he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went and he found the Russian Supergirl.
Yes. And we got the explanation that they said that basically she'd been created from black kryptonite, which can split like a person in two or make a copy or something.
Yeah.
So she seems to be like almost like a clone of Kara. And that would have all tied back to the events ages ago. That was all the stuff, wasn't that around the time to do with Mon-El and all of that kind of thing? That's basically what triggered this appearance then of this other Supergirl.
Yeah. Well, it showed it, didn't it? So they just found her, didn't they? The Russians just found her wandering, and she was saying Alex.
Alex, yes, that was interesting.
Alex.
And then when he went to meet her, he said, because obviously he's Lex, which is short for Alexander, which could also be shortened to Alex.
Yeah, but before that, they because she was in the woods and because she's obviously got the high pitched sound thing and all that.
Yeah.
And the trees and everything was making loads of noise, wasn't it? And she sort of hit out, didn't she? Attacked, and they were going to shoot her at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they realised, no, she's fine, she's just scared, but she was still saying Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And they put her in a cell, didn't they, temporarily, and she could hear people calling for help.
Yeah.
And broke out and helped a family, some cabin or something. There was a boy and his
with the little
mum
boy. Yeah, that's right. And he went there and she went there and saved the day. And I mean, this is interesting because again, this is like, although she seems to have no memories and she's a blank slate, she still seems to retain Kara's sense of heroism and justice and saving people in need, even though she doesn't know why or anything like that, because she instinctively flew off and saved this family, didn't she? And
then when they were searching for her, that's where they found her, wasn't it, in the house? And she was cowering in the corner. And Lex found her, and she went, Alex, and it's like, Lex, So he's like that, then he's like, yes, I'm Alex, Lex.
Yeah.
That was, and then basically he can control her, can't he?
Well, because he took time to earn her trust, didn't he? He clearly got lots of passes out of prison. And he kept going there to see her, and he'd bring her books, and he would talk to her, and he was trying to teach her about everything, and teach her about the earth, and teaching her about the country she was in. That, like, although you're not from here as such, but this is your country, these are your people, and instilling this sense of like protectiveness and patriotism in her of Kaznia. All the while, obviously, the military side of it, they were taking her out and getting her to do training exercises and to fight things and to take down planes and things like that. And he was very, very cleverly manipulating her, like getting into her head and gaining her trust and making her think he cared about her. Obviously,
and telling her that the real Supergirl was the enemy.
Yes, that's right. He started then feeding that into her, didn't he? And she was like, why does she look like me? And, all of this stuff. And he said, she basically took your place. She is... Yeah. She's in the place that you should be in, and she took it from you, and she's a bad person, and basically trying to turn this girl against Kara, and making her see that Americans are evil, and they're all about consumerism and money, and they hate this country. And
the typical Russia-American thing, then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what he was trying to do, wasn't he? He was trying to instigate. He was trying to instigate another, like, Cold War between the US and this country. Because that was the other thing they revealed, although technically we're saying Russian. I mean, they made it clear that, like, Kaznia is clearly one of these things where, like, in real life, when the USSR broke up into
it's not part of
many countries, Kaznia is one of them.
Soviet Union.
Yeah.
There was another little pointer that happened just before something else that happened. That makes sense, doesn't it? That Otis guy, Lex got him to recruit Lockwood.
Yes, because that was the thing with him and the sister. And he said, we need somebody to start stirring things up. We need like a radical or something in America to start doing things. And he said, well, we've had our eye on this guy for a little while. We think we found just the guy. And he said, who is he? And he said, his name's Ben Lockwood. And it was like, wait, that's Agent Liberty. All this stuff. So again, the emergence of this character and the Children of Liberty, that was all down to Lex Luthor as well. And it's like, oh my God.
That was a bit of an eye-opener, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like trying to turn Supergirl against Supergirl, and then he decided to take her to America.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to Kara's house.
And I couldn't believe the fact that he clearly, obviously, he knows who Kara is. I mean, I suppose it makes sense because he knows that Clark Kent is Superman, and he knows that Kara is Clark Kent's cousin, so by, logic, it would be like, well, if they're cousins, then she clearly must be the other Kryptonian. She must be Supergirl. Yeah. But it's the fact he knew where she lived. He was able to get into her apartment, and he's like,
have a good snoop around. I seen the pictures, and she saw that she had an Alex. She has an Alex too, and all this stuff. Yeah. I thought, oh dear, and looking at everything, and then the other Alex came back. It's like he disappeared. He said, "Oh no, that's what happened." He said, "Right, you've had a look now. We'll go now." And she had to go out the window because she had to fly back to wherever they were going back to.
Yeah.
Because he had to go back to prison, didn't he? He had an alert on his phone.
Yeah.
But she didn't go. Did she open the windows and then went? Actually, because she said she saw this journal on the table, so she decided to read the journal.
Yeah.
So while she was reading the journal, Alex came in, didn't she?
And what was interesting here was the time frame, because clearly this particular time frame was when the crossover happened, because Alex said to her, "Hey, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Smallville."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, yeah, I had to come back because I forgot something." And she's like, "What did you forget that you had to come all the way back for?" And she looked around quickly, and then she went, my journal. I forgot my journal." But when she said
I need to write things down.
Yeah, when she said, "I thought you were in Smallville," I thought, oh, that's where she was when they had the crossover, because when Barry and Oliver came over to her Earth, they found her at the farm in Smallville with Superman and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, that's interesting. So this bit happened during this part of the timeline.
Yeah.
And then she got away with it, didn't she? She basically convinced her that she was Kara, and then Alex left, and then she was like, oh, and then she left there. But then that made her start questioning again what Lex had been telling her. She was more inquisitive then,
yeah. So she decided to go to LexCorp, is it?
Yeah.
And she got in the lift, and she was going to go and see Lena, wasn't she? Mm-hmm. Did Lena get in the lift with her?
I'm trying to remember where they were talking. I can't remember if it was in the lift or in the hallway. Oh, no, it was in the lift.
Yeah, and then Eve, when it stopped, Eve got in, or it was just about to shut, and Eve got in, or when they got to the floor, Eve got in, and Lena got out and said, she told her something's happened, she had to go and see to something, and shut the door, and she told her off and said, you can't do this.
Yeah, because she knew who she was.
Yeah, because obviously she works with Lex.
Yeah.
It's like, phew, caught her.
And then there were concerns.
That the other Kara told Lex that she liked the other Kara. Said, she's nice, she's kind, she's sweet, blah, 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 blah. So they decided, right, we've got to make her really hate America. So they decided to annihilate where the boy was living.
Yeah.
And blamed America to get her on side. And I bet the boy is safe, because at the time Otis was there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When there was a thing with the football, doing something with the football. There was a massive explosion, and I put, bet the boy is safe.
Yeah.
And obviously we did find out that he saved the boy.
this was the other important thing. When they went to America, and this was clearly him putting all of his chess pieces in place, because they went to a cocktail bar, and he told her to go and integrate and get to see what American culture's like up close. And there was these two men, and they thought she was a waitress or something, and they were being a bit sexist and flirty and everything. And she noticed this logo, and it turns out this logo...
on there.
Yeah, the logo was to do with a weapons, like an American weapons manufacturer. So when they did the thing then to try and bring her back in line again, and they blew this little boy's house up, when she was clawing through all the debris and stuff, this logo was there that was to do with that American arms dealers. So then she was like, it was the Americans that did this. And it was like, oh, you're so clever, aren't you? You triggered her by putting all these pieces in place.
But she was going to retaliate, and he didn't want that to happen because that would have compromised the plan.
Yeah.
He had to stop her, didn't he? Because she was going to go all hell's blazing and blow the ship. Was it a ship or something? She was going to blow up.
Yeah, was it a submarine or something?
Yeah.
And so she went there and she was doing all this stuff, and then, what was weird was that wasn't one of the guys then pleading for his life, and she sort of softened, and she wasn't going to kill him, and then Lex showed up and killed them all. And he was like, we can't have any witnesses, we can't have anybody knowing about you. And that's why he was really annoyed with her, because he was like, you shouldn't have done this. This is really, because you compromised everything.
The mission.
And he was really cross with her, and then he basically they went back to her place, and he said, this is no good, I can't do this anymore. And he basically made out like he wasn't going to see her anymore. And she got really angry with him, and they basically had a falling out, and then he left. And then it seems like he didn't visit her for some time.
No. And that was the bit where we saw Otis with the little boy, and he told the little boy, beware of bald men.
Yeah.
Basically, beware of
If you ever see a bald man...
If you ever see a bald man, beware.
Play dead.
It's like, oh, bless him.
Yeah.
So then we got back to the bit where the Russian Supergirl was ill, like where we seen right at the beginning of the season, where she had been doing some manoeuvres and blood was coming out of her nose, and they realised she was ill.
Yeah.
And so basically, the drug that Lena was making, he needed it for Supergirl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the meantime, you'd had the bits with Eve giving information back to Lex about this Harrenhal thing, and about how Lena was doing all this research on it, and he was like, okay, we'll help her along and give her, feedback to me on any developments and any breakthroughs she makes. If you need any help to sort of push her forward, tell me, and I'll tell you what to do, and things like that. So, then they realised...
So then he decided, so he thought, the only way around it was him making himself ill, so he went into a radiation room or something, wasn't it?
Oh my God, yeah, he was like, I have to get... This is then the whole thing with him having cancer. He was like, I have to give myself cancer. And he just went into this thing and exposed himself to all this radiation.
I thought, holy crap. Because, I was thinking, how did this cancer come on so quick? And then we realised how. And then he sent a hologram message to Lena and convinced her to help him.
Yeah.
And the rest is history from the other episodes. So basically now he's got the drug. He wants to give that to the Russian Supergirl, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then he did. He gave it to her and made her better again. And then when she came to, she saw him sat there, and she was like, you saved me. And he was like, of course I saved you. And then they basically made up. He said, I'm sorry I was cross at you. She was like, I'm sorry that I lashed out at you. And she said, she then feels like indebted to him because he saved her life. And then he opened the case. He said, I have a present for you. And he opened the case up, and inside was a costume.
Yes.
And it was the bit from the beginning was cool, because at the very, very beginning of the whole episode, after we had that cliffhanger moment where Lex had been fighting Kara, they showed the Supergirl logo, but it wasn't in English, was it? It was all in like Russian. And so then when he gave her the costume, it had this, it was like almost like the hammer and sickle symbol that was like on where the Supergirl logo should be on the costume.
Yeah, cool.
And he gave her that, and then he basically said that she was his red daughter.
Yes.
And it was like, oh.
When we had Supergirl, obviously he didn't throw the orb or whatever it was, the globe on top of her, because she got back to tell them that Lex was back in town.
Yeah.
And then we saw we saw Lena, and she wasn't, well, whether she's dead or not, we don't know, because Eve put her in her office with a suicide note, it looked like.
Yeah.
And then it showed the other Supergirl outside.
And she was in America, and she was like
in America again.
Above the city, wasn't she?
So we don't know I don't think Lena's dead, but it's obviously she's probably dying.
Oh no, saying that, wasn't the letter addressed to her? Didn't the letter say Lena?
I don't know, but why would she bring her back to the office? Because obviously she was cloaked, so no one could find her.
I don't know, it does seem like he's moving pieces into place, because, he's very clever, and we see that throughout this episode, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I don't think she's dead. I think it's just the next phase of whatever he's got planned to come. But we will have to wait and see. But all in all, it was a really good episode of Supergirl, and I just think it was really clever the way that they tied in so many past events to say, these things, the reason all these things happened was because Lex Luthor was setting them all up behind the scenes. We just didn't know it yet.
No. Was it on a break now, Supergirl?
No, I don't think so. I think it's on again next week. Oh, no.
I think we got another week, or is it then it's on its break?
It might be. Yeah, we might have one more Supergirl. We definitely don't have any Flash and Arrow,
Flash, no.
next week, but we may have
we've
one
got
more
Legends.
Supergirl. Oh, yes, but Legends is back, isn't it? That's true.
Legends starts on Monday, so we've got that to add in.
Yay, awesome.
Yay.
Looking forward to talking about that.
Yep.
Right, okay.
Anyway, let's move on to the next
focus. So this is this week's episode of Arrow called Inheritance, and in keeping with how I've been feeling recently, again, wasn't really that phased about this week's Arrow again, which is a shame. It's really proving week on week now, amongst all the others, to me anyway, it's the weakest out of all the shows that I'm watching. I'm just sat there.
It's like they've given up. It's like the writers have given up on it as well.
Yeah. So I mean,
so we started with. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I just see what I write. I just watch it at the moment. We had a small bit at the beginning with Miko and the dad.
Yeah.
Dad said he was leaving her and all this, and don't leave me, and I have other things and all. No, basically, he was very dismissive, wasn't he, at the beginning? So then we went back to normal. Miko was asking Oliver who taught him how to do taekwondo and stuff.
Yeah.
They were having this sort of mock fighting practice, self-defense thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had Laurel stalking Miko.
Yeah.
And then she got hit by her.
Yeah.
Felicity's old nerdy friend Alana's turned back up.
Yes, to help her with the
new thing,
Archer project.
Archer project, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Laurel went to see Felicity, but Ollie was there instead. So she told him about her information about Diaz.
Yeah, because he saw that she was bleeding, because originally she wasn't going to talk to him about it, and he said about that she was bleeding through her shirt or something. He said, look, come in, I'll patch you up. And then he was like, why did you come? And then she said, look, I wasn't going to tell you, I wanted to speak to Felicity, but basically, and then she went on to say about how Amiko is a baddie. And
and there was no record of her before she was 15 or something.
Yeah, and Oliver was a bit like, oh, I don't, he wasn't sure how to take it all and everything like that. But he thought, well, I'll see, I'll look into it. So he then ended up following Amiko, didn't he, later on?
Yeah.
And he saw her with Dante.
Yes. They went to did they go to Palmatech?
Yeah, which I didn't think that was still a thing.
No, so they went there, and he's seen them, and he mentioned, is it the Ninth Circle or the Ninth? The Ninth.
Yeah.
The Ninth Circle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Laurel is in trouble again with Dinah because regarding something to do with something called Romero Gonzalez, and she was being a bit heavy-handed, and she said, no, you've got to do it the right way. You can't do it like vigilante way or something.
Yeah, he was a...
Who is this Romero Gonzalez?
He was a gang member, wasn't he, that they had in custody, and they were like, it's a big deal getting him, if we can get him to, like, turn over the others and stuff. So, we'll, give us, like, this information, and, like, he'll turn witness, and then as a result, he will get, like, immunity or whatever, but he will help us bring down this gang and stuff.
That's something separate to what we're doing. Something separate for what we're...
Well, it was separate. Initially, it was separate, yeah.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. So Ollie went to see Amiko, and she said that Dante taught her to... she didn't tell him. We found out that Dante taught her to fight and everything.
Yeah.
She owes him or something.
Well, this was then we got the things with the flashbacks, because like you said, we got the flashback where she was little, and the dad had said that he couldn't see them anymore, and they were like, but what are we going to do? And then mum was like, about where they were going to live, and he was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. And then you got obviously her then without a father figure, and she went and she steal something? And Dante basically was like, you shouldn't, if you're going to steal, you should try and get away with it better and all this lot. And she was really ballsy, and he liked that, and he basically took her under his wing.
Yeah.
And then he trained her.
And he was like a father figure to her in a way, because she didn't, her father want to know. So
and that's what she said to Oliver. She said he she owes him and the Ninth Circle because they looked after her. When she had no one else there, they were the ones that were there for her.
Right, yeah. So they're trying to find Dante, and they have some DNA from him.
Mm-hmm.
And they put it through the Archer program, and it's found him at a chemical plant.
Yeah.
So the team turned up to confront them, and because they got caught, Dante got angry with Emiko and hit her, and he got away without her.
Yeah. So then they took her to the Arrow Cave, didn't they?
Yeah, they took her to the Arrow Cave so she finally found out what's going on there. They had another flashback, the slightly older Anika being trained by Dante for the Ninth Circle.
Yeah.
And I put, what was the gift for her? He gave her something. I don't remember what it was.
No.
And you don't care. So back to normality. Laurel has gone to see Fernandez to get Romero. Is that right? Yes, she's after Romero Gonzalez, and she went to see Hernandez, who's in prison, isn't he? The one that she'd been roughing up. When she went to see him, he was dead.
Yeah. And that was the importance of that thing. Basically, she got set up, didn't she?
Yeah. So that's not good.
And that was obviously that was basically her, this is what you get for getting involved in my business kind of thing.
Yeah. And so Amika's at the lair, and apparently she'd planted a jammer to stop them finding him.
Yeah.
So basically it was all set up, her getting hit by him just to get her to go back with them, so that she could do something to stop them finding him.
And they had a fight, didn't they?
Yeah. And a story about Dante wasn't true.
Well, that's sort of something we got a bit further on, didn't we? That what the real story was. But yeah, they had a fight, and then she escaped, and it then turned out that the Ninth Circle was stealing sarin gas, and they were going to use it to poison the city or something.
Yeah.
So they were like, right, we need to do this the old-fashioned way. So they went out to try and track them down. And they found them. It was like an airfield or something, and they had invisible drones or something. And that.
Well, what they were doing is they were supposed to be testing them, and then he decided not to test them, and then he activated the drones, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then Ollie was shooting at them all, but one got away.
Yeah, that's right, and it did release the gas, but luckily there was nobody there. It was abandoned or something. And then you had all the backwards and forwards there, and then Emiko got away as well after that, didn't she? They all escaped, didn't they?
Well, she escaped and ordered Dante's men to kill Oliver.
That's right. And then it got revealed that she's the boss.
Yeah.
That was the big twist. That was the big important thing of this
big
episode.
Twist was she was annoyed with Dante for letting the test happen because she told him not to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it turned out she's in charge of him, whereas it looked like the other way around.
Because he was saying about
her new target.
Yeah, because he was saying about how people were concerned about how long she was away and all of her obsession with various things, and then she basically, you thought at the time the way it played out, he was giving her a telling off, and then she turned around and said, basically, I can do what I want because I'm the leader of this organization, and it was like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah, she was really dismissive to him, wasn't she? Yes. And I thought, whoa. And then we found out, so what happened on the boat, the Gambit, she probably caused it.
Yeah, because she...
because we had a bit of a flashback where she went to see the dad for the proposal for a new venture with Queen Consolidated, but he rejected her over his, inverted commas, real family.
And he said that this is Oliver's legacy. It's got, I can't compromise anything. And so she was all dejected. And then she somehow... How did she get the plans and stuff came to her for the Queen's Gambit? She got the plans, and it basically showed the thing about the explosives. So she knew all about it. And so, like you said, whether...
That's what made me think the Gambit, because she had the plans of the Gambit, she probably was the one that blew it up.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended my sort of spiel, thinking it's probably her then. So when it obviously... It shouldn't have blown up, should it? He was supposed to die. That's what the point was, and for potentially Oliver as well.
So I mean, for me, that's what in all, the important takeaways from this episode was Emiko is not just a misguided little girl that's kind of working with the villain. She's the boss of all the baddies. And the fact that she potentially is the one that was behind everything that kick-started the whole Arrow story in the first place, with the boat going down and stuff. And the other thing was the whole thing to do with Laurel, the fact that Laurel's been discredited and framed, and so now that's going to affect obviously her position as the DA and things like that. They were the main three things I felt.
Things that came out of that, yeah. Well, that's all that came out of it, really.
Yeah, because everything else just.
Yeah. So yeah, but it just feels like the writers have just lost hope.
Yeah.
We're finishing it. We'll finish it. It's disappointing because obviously it's always been good.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, you're finishing the series, but you don't finish the series. You should finish the series as good quality as it was when you started it. Not like lose interest, because that's what they're doing. Because if it's not like a diehard fan like yourself.
Yeah.
It's not. That's probably 3 weeks in a row now. You've gone, not bothered.
Yeah. I just find it's not capturing my attention as much as it used to.
No. Have they got a different writer doing this last season?
No idea.
Supergirl went from strength to strength, because I used to say the similar thing to you about that, didn't I? I was going, oh yeah, just watch it because it's part of the programs we watch.
Yeah.
And it's like you're doing that with Arrow at the moment, just like I'll just see it out to the end, but you're not that bothered. Unless it gets really exciting, It's nothing like, you don't look forward to go, can't wait to see what's going to happen on Arrow this week.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a shame, because I used to really like how it was a slightly more dark and gritty program in comparison to the sort of more, the lighter, more comic booky other two shows, or other three shows sometimes as well with Legends. But now it just seems that it's become so gritty that it's not even really I don't feel like it's a superhero show. It's like they're just going against criminal gangs, and it's like, oh, that's boring.
It was when they made that decision, wasn't it? Was it a season ago back where they went, oh, we're not going to go for like the supernaturally superhero-y stuff anymore. We're going to go back to basics. We've got no crazy villain. Remember, it was you that told me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they said, we're not going to have like some sort of like Damien Dark type people in it anymore. We're just going to go back to the basics. And that's been their demise, basically.
Because, the thing is, the way that they portrayed the enemies and stuff in this, you could go back and go, yeah, but they did a more realistic sort of take years ago when they had all of the stuff with the League of Assassins and Malcolm Merlin and all of that stuff. And it's like, yeah, but the difference there was that there was that mystical element to them with Ra's al Ghul and the magical water and stuff. But it was exciting because they were like ninjas and they showed up here, there and everywhere. This is just like, they're just like a criminal cartel that just like to do with drugs. It's like watching a detective program where they're trying to take down these like gangland bosses. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't compare. There's nothing there that stands out to me that's really exciting. You look at, again, you go, okay, Daredevil. And you go, look, well, the Kingpin's just a crime boss. And it's like, yeah, but there's more to him because he's like oversized, he's like super intelligent. Obviously, the person he's going up against has got abilities in Daredevil because he's got these special senses and stuff. So although it's kind of a crime story, it's made fantastical. Whereas this one, it's like, none of them are really powered. They're all just people in suits that are just highly trained fighters. And they're going up against a bunch of regular criminals. So it just feels a bit, I don't know, it just seems to have lost that kind of superhero sparkle.
Be interested to see what they do with it, turned it. But anyway, let's go away from the depression and get something more lighthearted.
And as we do every week, which is becoming a tradition on this show, and at least it will be until the show ends, we end on a high with a very melancholy, very sentimental, very nostalgic episode of the Orville, which was called Lasting Impressions. I love this. I just sat here and I went...
love this one.
I watched it and I said...
Big smile on your face.
Seth MacFarlane is such a great writer.
He's a genius, isn't he?
Like, this guy just doesn't get enough credit. Yeah, he can write wacky, crude, off-the-wall humour, but he can also just tell a really good story.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. It was a really good story.
Great. So it started the story with a guy from, what are they called? We got Discovery Starfleet. What are they classed as their?
It's the Union.
Union, yeah. So a guy from the Union had come to the Orville to give them this. They found this time capsule from 2015.
That's right.
And they had various things out of the time capsule were put on the table, and they wanted them to have a look at it and find out what they could find out about the people from that era, basically, wasn't it?
And
so on the table.
The key thing, sorry, just quickly, the key thing for anybody listening who is a Star Trek fan, this doctor, this scientist guy that brought them the time capsule was played by Tim Russ, who was Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager. So again, they got another Star Trek actor to appear in an episode of the Orville. So yeah, and he was a Vulcan-like Spock in Voyager, and it's like, oh my god, they've got another Star Trek actor to appear in this not Star Trek TV show.
That's even better.
That's brilliant.
Oh. Well,
so they had
an
this
array
time
of
capsule.
stuff on the table. So we had cigarettes, cool hats,
Yeah.
mobile phones, spam, tins of spam,
Yeah.
headphones, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, "What's this? What's that?"
Yeah.
They, the cigarettes. Bortis wanted to know what they were, and the doctor explained they're things people used to put in their mouth, set alight, and inhale. Basically, wasn't it?
Yes.
He said it's got a very addictive substance in it that people could, once they start them, they can't really stop doing it. Basically,
and he liked the smell of it, didn't he?
Yeah, and it just, without it being lit, he was like, it has a very nice odor or something like that, wasn't it?
And just from the get-go, as soon as that happened, I was already formulating ideas in my head. I just thought, I know where this is going. I have a feeling, and yeah.
And then they picked up they had the mobile phone, and the guy from real Star Trek had said it's some sort of communication device, but we haven't been able to do anything with it. So if you can find anything on it, that'd be really good.
Yeah.
So they took it to the lab, as I would call it, and they were trying to work out what to do. And I think we've got power, but nothing's happening. And the blob man, what's his name again? The jelly man.
What's he called? What's his name? Yaffet.
Yaffet says you might try turning it off and on again, which was a thing you say about everything computerized. So that was really hilarious. So they got it working, and then they found a video from 2015 of this woman who owned the phone.
Because they realised that obviously what they were doing wrong, although they powered it and stuff, they said, they were running it, they were coming at it from a 25th century perspective when they should be looking at it from a 21st century. So he said,
right.
John was like, Lamar was like, okay, well, what if I reconfigure the BIOS and stuff, it should allow us to activate it. So they got it open, and they went in, and they were like, there's loads of communications on here. And it's like, yeah, they used to communicate with each other via written messages. And so they went through all the messages, and then they were like, oh, look, what else is here? And they clicked on the thing, and it was a video.
From the get-go, I went, I think Gordon's in love. He was looking at the picture.
She left a message where she was talking to, she was like, basically, hello, people of the future. If you found this, then, I'm sending you a message. And she said,
I'm no longer alive or something like that.
And she said, I'm long dead and my life was probably meaningless and stuff. And she's like, but I wanted to record this so that you have a record of what our world was like, what things were like back in this era. And she said, tomorrow they're burying a time capsule, and so I just got myself the new iPhone, so I'm going to put this one in the time capsule, and hopefully somebody will find it in the future and they'll be able to find out more, and they'll know who Laura Huggins was as a person. And, I'll live on in the future. And like you said, Gordon was just staring at this, looking really...
Staring at it,
oh, this is amazing.
But they took it back to the rest of the guys in the room and said, right, we've got it working. And they were like scrolling, there's all these text messages. And Kelly says, it's like another language. And then the guy from the real Star Trek said, yes. He said, they obviously had some problems with the recoding. Because instead of putting wireless telecommunication facility, they put
WTF.
And I went, oh my days, that's hilarious.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, I was right. I wanted to make sure I got that wording in right, because I thought that's my laugh out loud moment of the beginning of the programme.
I love that.
So it's like, yeah, it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
So then we had bought his partner looking at the cigarettes, and he said they smell nice, and he started eating them.
He just put it in his mouth, didn't he?
And he goes, no, we liked them. And then the both of them were smoking them. Oh my Lord!
And they were like, how good they were, and they're like, oh, it's very
We've
pleasant.
run out now. He said, shall I make some more? And he goes, 500 cigarettes. Big pile of cigarettes appeared on the table. I thought, oh my days. So then we had Gordon trying to recreate the woman from the phone into the simulator.
Well, he had an idea, didn't he? Because he wanted to know more, because he was reading her messages, and he was like, I'd love to have been able to know her. She seems like such an amazing person. She was there for all her friends. Everybody used to come to her for help, and I wish I could know her more. So he had this idea, and he took the phone to the simulator room, and he basically spoke to the computer, and he was like, could you build a simulator from the phone? And again, it was almost like a little comedy bit, because like when he put it down, it was like, device not recognized. And then he was like, explain what it was, and then it scanned it again, and it went, device recognized. And he was like, can you scan the whole database, all the videos, messages, everything, and build a simulation off of this? And then the computer's like, what are the parameters? He's like, no parameters, just it has to be as natural as possible, just based on all of her information. So the computer was like, working, and then it built this simulation of our time, of like the...
Yeah, so it went into 2015.
Yeah.
She was having a housewarming party or something, wasn't she?
Yeah, that's right. And he turned up in his outfit.
And they said about his outfit, and then there was a point saying, are you in your pajamas? Did so-and-so, some Lorenzo or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He said, did he send you? And he said, yeah. He said, just for a joke, he said, go in your pajamas. And he said, oh yeah, because he couldn't make it or something. And so he was like, he blended in a little bit.
Yeah.
He was having a nice time, wasn't he?
Yeah. And he got talking to her. She gave him a tour of the flat. And she said, this is my new apartment. Said about she'd recently broken up with her boyfriend after a 9-year relationship. And she was showing him around. And then she got talking about, like, saying about how easy it was to talk to him. And she said something about singing. And she said about, if you're interested, like, I'm doing this, this gig, if you want to come and see. And he was like, wow, you sing? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, that sounds great. And he was really interested in that. And he was like, yeah, I'll come along. And then that was sort of the end of that section.
We went into, we had a brief bit with Kelly and Ed looking at newspapers. There was must have been a newspaper in the time capsule. He goes, oh, these people, it's all doom and gloom. He said, and articles about teeth whitening.
What was it? Was it USA Today or something like that? I think it was. Yeah, and they were like,
he said that those are pages about teeth whitening.
No, he couldn't get his head around it, because he said they're going through a environmental catastrophe. They're facing all these issues with the climate. And yet, on the next page, there's this huge thing to do with teeth whitening, and it's like basically
how bizarre.
These people's priorities, what were they thinking back then in this era? So it's kind of a nice little commentary on us as well, because it's like, all these things that we face going on in the world, and yet there are articles and advertisements for cosmetic surgery and things like that. It's like we should be thinking about more important things.
It was very good. The clever way he put it into the real life as well. And then I went onto the bridge, and Bortus was sat in the captain's seat smoking. Because
the security girl, she said, I need you to come to the bridge. We have a bit of a situation.
We have a situation. He sat there with his ashtray and everything. And then he came in, he said, like, okay, and he said, you can go back. What did they say? You can go back
you can
to
leave
the
early.
station now. And he went, or you can leave early or something. He goes, okay. Then he just took his ashtray and walked away. He's like, I'll speak to him later.
Oh, that was so funny. Because then we got that bit with him as well, didn't it? With them smoking, and they were talking about how much they enjoy smoking, and it's really good. And I feel, what was it? I feel like I've been standing my whole life, and now I'm sitting down, and all of this kind of thing.
Get more and more addicted to the nicotine, weren't they, the two of them?
That was brilliant.
Was that the bit that he had spoken to John about? He'd gone about the simulator thing, and he said, he warned him of not getting involved. Don't be silly. You don't want to do that. He said, yeah, but it's not like a simulator, is it? It's her story just brought to life.
And he was
so
like,
it's not the same. It's like a program. It's not written by us, and it's her own program. But I've just brought it to life through the simulator, and he's warning him off. But he went back, didn't he? He snuck back in, and when he went there this time, she was in the club singing, wasn't she?
Yeah,
and
that's
he
right.
was sitting
Yeah.
listening to her, and I thought, that's throw back to a few weeks ago when he was singing. I thought, oh, he obviously likes singing, and so she sat and chatted to him afterwards, and she was on about she was having some sort of party or something for games night or something, and she said, why do you invite all your friends? And he said, yeah, I might do that. And she gave him her number.
Yeah, and then she said,
and he didn't have a phone.
Yeah, and then she said, yeah, she gave him her number, and then she said about his, and then he said, oh yeah, because it was funny, because she wrote it down, and then he went, what is it? And she went, it's my phone number. And he was like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, phone number. And then she's like, are you not going to give me yours? And he was like, I don't have it with me. I've got your number, so I'll send you a message, and then you'll have my number. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So then when he left the simulator, he got the computer to replicate a phone so that he could then text her. And then that was weird. That was really strange, how that worked, because it's like they were exchanging messages even though she's not real.
Yeah.
Like, that was so strange how the computer program, he was able to send text messages to her, and the simulated version of her was able to send him messages. Because there was that bit later, wasn't there, when he was like, hey, look guys, look what Laura just sent me, and it was a picture of a dog or something, and it was like, this is really strange that they're exchanging text messages, but she doesn't exist anymore. She's just a computer program.
So and he went back to the gang, didn't he? He said, well, I told them, and they were like, what? And he said, yeah, I've been it's only a simulation. He said, I just want to see experience how the people lived in those times, and she's invited us all, me and my friends, to a game night. Would you be up for it? And they sort of went, okay.
Yeah.
And they all turned up at this game night, and it was like was it where you draw a picture and you have to guess what it is or something? Yeah, Pictionary.
Yeah.
They did all they was enjoying themselves, that's all. To be fair.
It was really funny as well, because obviously Gordon was drawing at the time, wasn't he? And he kept pointing and pointing, and they were getting it wrong, and he was like, oh no. And I loved how blunt Ed was. When somebody made a joke or something, he went, yeah, anyway, I think it's time we leave now. And it was just like, he was really deadpan, whatever the
non-committal.
Yeah, the way the comment was made, he was really so blunt about it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But then Gordon stayed the night and had, with her, didn't he?
Yes, that's right. They all left, there. And then they were talking. Was that the point when she talked about her fear of flying, and he was telling her to imagine about the turbulence, you're in a
jello.
Jello, yeah.
On chat on the sofa with he said, just imagine you're in Jello and you can't go anywhere. You're moving, but you can't go anywhere. That's all it's like. And then next thing we know, he woke up and he was in the bed with her, and the clock they were hailing him, weren't they?
Yeah, and then the bed disappeared because he put computer end program, and the bed disappeared and he fell on the floor. And then he was rushed in. He's like, I'm really sorry I'm late, and they're like, just don't do it again. And
we had Bortus in the corner chewing gum to help him stop smoking. Gordon's at his controls, and the next thing he's on his phone talking, going, sorry about this, I've just got to take this call. Yeah. And again, how is she calling him? And she's in the simulation. It's like, wow, this is so bizarre. It's like, and then they realise, what's going on here?
Now the other thing is to just interject with, in between of all this, when we'd cut back to the whole thing with Bortus and Clyden, because of him smoking on the bridge and stuff, they were like, look, this is an issue, we need to speak to them. So when they went to their quarters, obviously they were smoking loads and loads of cigarettes, and they were like, where's their kid? And he's like, oh, he's staying with friends and all this lot. And the doctor said, there's a problem here. I need you to come by the lab and I want to check you out. And when she checked them, she basically found out that Mocklans, their genetic makeup, they are extremely susceptible to nicotine addiction. And she said, look, and they were like, well, what can we do? Is there an injection? She was like, well, no, because you're basically patient 1 and patient 0. Nobody has
she said,
smoked.
I have to make a injection for you.
Yeah, so in the meantime, you need to support each other and not smoke, until I'm able to find this cure for you. So that's why the whole thing with Bortus chewing gum was because he was like it was like nicotine replacement gum.
And then he couldn't find his wife. She was in an airlock or something smoking.
Clyden was
Clyden was smoking.
Like smoking out the window. It's like the whole smoking out the window thing. Oh.
And then they had this big row, and he'd hidden them all around the house, hadn't he?
Yeah, because he's like, you're telling me that you haven't had a cigarette? And he's like, no, I haven't. He's like, oh, really? What's this then? And there was one in the flower plot. And then he was like...
Yeah, and then they're all in the cushion covers.
Yeah.
And then they had this massive fight. They got really aggressive with each other, didn't they, over the fags?
Well, that was towards the end, wasn't it? That was like... that they weren't going to lie to each other, they were going to support each other, and they were going to watch each other, and then they got in each other's faces, and they were really like, grrr. And then we cut back to the whole Gordon stuff, and later on, that was the bit when it showed them, and they were eating loads of food, and they were trying to compensate for not smoking by eating loads and loads of food, and they were like, oh, this is not, I'm not enjoying this, and, about having a cigarette, and then... they got into a row, which got into a big fight.
Oh, yeah, because I think the wife said, one won't hurt. And yeah. Went, we got one.
And so then it ended up with him, like, choke slamming him through the table and all of this lot.
Luckily, the doctor came to the rescue and went, I've got the serum.
Who wants to go first? And they're both like, me, I do. Oh, it was brilliant. That whole sub-story was so funny.
That was brilliant. And the other bit, then we had the thing about Gordon. Going back to Gordon, they told him off. He was called off about this thing to do with the Laura simulation.
Yeah. And he had to go at Ed, didn't he?
Yeah, he got like, no, leave me alone. It's not doing any harm and all this stuff. And so he went back into the simulation, and she was sat with her ex-boyfriend, and he realised they got back together.
Yeah.
And you'll still be my friend, and he wasn't very impressed with that. So he literally went straight out the door, didn't he? And went to the simulator and went, delete Greg from the simulation.
Yeah.
But then, when he went back to see her, it was when she was in the shop, wasn't it?
She was at Macy's, wasn't she, where she worked, yeah.
She was different. She still remembered the thing about the flying. Mm-hmm. And then he said, right, when are you singing again? I'd love to sing with... No, he said, I'll take you on a flight, because she said, will you take me on a flight? Yeah. I'll take you on a flight if you let me sing with you next time you sing.
Mm-hmm.
Sing? Yeah, in the club. Out in public. I'd never sing in public. And it turned out that because he deleted some of it, the guy had encouraged her to sing. That's why she sang, and now he's not there anymore. He doesn't sing anymore.
I mean, we worked that out when we were watching it. We were like, my thought was, this is because of Greg. Greg is clearly the reason that she got into singing, and without his presence, without him existing, she would never take that step to publicly sing. So by him erasing it,
she said to him, it was Greg, my ex-boyfriend used to want me to sing.
Yeah,
I would sing, and then he had to put him back in, didn't he? He's like, oh. So then he went back, and she was singing, and the boyfriend was at the table. He sat with him.
Yeah.
And then then he went up and sang with her, didn't he? Got his singing in with her.
Oh, wasn't that nice? That whole little bit was
that was nice, yeah.
And the nice little harmonies. And I just thought, obviously we saw him sing previously in a couple of episodes back, and it's like, he's got a good voice.
Not a bad voice, yeah. And then he got photographed with her.
Now, that was interesting, because I don't know what you thought, but when we were watching it, our thought was... we thought maybe it was going to end with them looking like somebody looking through the phone and that picture being on the phone.
Still on there. It was on there, yeah. I was as well.
It would have been one of those weird moments of he was in a simulation, but he was with her when the photo was taken. So is it somehow going to transfer back onto the phone so that picture will be on the phone or something, Well,
you never know. In another episode, he might still have the phone.
Yeah, or maybe that's why they left it like that, because they wanted us at home to imagine
he might have a time where he looks at the phone and goes, remembers the time he had with her or something.
And it was so nice.
Good though. The whole thing was so good.
And the whole bit, like I said about the good writing, was the bit when he was talking to Kelly. And she was talking about how special she was. And she said, look, this girl, basically, she thinks that she wasn't anything special, but she was able to reach people 400 years into the future and have an impact. She said, she made a guy from the future fall in love with her. That's how special she was. And I don't know, I can't remember word for word, but I just sat there listening to her speech, and I just thought, my God, Seth MacFarlane's so good at writing.
He's amazing.
Because it was just written so nicely and so sentimentally, and, it wasn't cheesy or cliche. It was just made you go, oh, that was really nice. It was quite poetic.
And like I say, they've got a break now, haven't they? So it's like a not connected to anything else episode.
Yeah.
Just a nice feeling, warm feeling inside sort of episode where you went, oh.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I thought was really clever, the way he threw that episode in before they'd gone on a little bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
Before they get into, usually they get into a nitty-gritty near the end of the season, don't they?
Yeah.
Some sort of battle will commence with something going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought just a sort of feel-good episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it.
I knew you'd like it. As soon as I watched it, I went, oh, I can't wait for Dom to watch it. He's going to love this episode. The whole thing, with everything being stuff they've never seen before and didn't know what it was.
It was just so good the way it balanced the comedy with the sentimentality. And, you had all of the, out of time stuff of what is all this weird stuff from the past, alongside the whole thing with Clyden and Bortus, alongside this nice little story with Gordon, which, you could say a lot of it was obvious, you could see a lot of the things that were going to happen coming, but I didn't mind that, it didn't bother me. It played out really nicely.
Yeah.
And it was just all in all, it was just a really, really good episode. And we also had, obviously, the girl that was in it. That's some people that maybe saw the episode will be aware of her. Her name's Leighton Meester, and she was most famously known by a lot of people for being in the show Gossip Girl, which went for years and years and years.
Yeah.
But as far as programs that we watch, she was actually in The Last Man on Earth as well. She was in
she?
Do you remember when they introduced the guy that was the cannibal?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and when we got to see his story, how he ended up in the prison and stuff like that, she was in that episode. She was the girl that he was, wanting to go out on a date with and stuff like that. So,
right, okay.
Yeah, she was in The Last Man on Earth. Because I looked that up, you see, because I was like, when I saw her, I was like, because I knew her from Gossip Girl, and I was like, oh, what else has she done? What are the programs? And then when I saw her, I was like, she was in The Last Man on Earth, and I went, oh, and then I was like, which episode was she in? So I looked it up, so that's how I knew specifically that she was in that particular episode with Carl the Cannibal. So that was two notable guest stars in that episode.
Yeah, mainly the guy from Star Trek. He's the most important one. And some woman that was in Last Man on Earth.
But yeah, so all in all, it was a really fun episode, and now we got a couple of weeks to wait until the next one.
Yeah. So next week we have potentially if Supergirl still on. We've got Walking Dead finale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Supergirl, Star Trek, and Legends.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? Next week?
Yeah, that's it. So four.
Yeah, that's four though. That's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We could pack a 4 out because I'm sure Walking Dead will have a lot in it.
Yeah,
and Legends will be exciting because there's always plenty going on in Legends. So.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so that's going to do it. So that's going to do it for another week. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. I hope that you've enjoyed this week's show. Please leave a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Please comment down below because we'd love to hear from you. And also check out my description box for other ways that you can support this podcast, this channel, by going to my Patreon. I've got Ko-fi as well, which is a little bit more flexible than Patreon. Check them out. I'd appreciate it. I'd love it if you were able to do that. And the other thing I want to say is that as this goes on air, this will be up on Sunday, is I just want to say Happy Mother's Day, Mother, and Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in, specifically in the UK. I know it's not Mother's Day globally this Sunday, but, it is at this part of the world. So a big Happy Mother's Day to any mums listening to this podcast.
Oh, clever boy.
Hope you all have a lovely day. So, and that goes for
enjoy the podcast.
Mother. Yes, enjoy the podcast
with your feet
on
up
Mother's
and a cup of
Day.
tea.
Be in bed with a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich, or whatever your breakfast of choice is, and listen to this podcast.
Yeah, great.
So, Thank you so much again, Mum, for your input and your insights and your patience. So I hope
it's so exciting. I mean, it's such a long week for me because I watch everything when they come out. Mm-hmm. So I've got to wait all week to talk about it. So it's like Friday's come, yay! So
yes, so that's it.
Good.
That's us done for another week. So we will catch you guys next time. You all take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, 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 bye.